remember Chael Sonnen said a thing once. I think he was bitching to Randy Couture about having to go into the gym. He's like, I got to go to the gym this morning. He's like, no, you don't have to go to the gym. You get to go to the gym this morning. He's like, there are people, and I think their old gym might have been like in a, they had the mat set up behind a tire place, or like it was a car shop or something like that. So while guys are working on cars, there's dudes coming in to train. So I thought that was pretty cool, and he really made it a point that like, this is an opportunity that not a lot of people have. Like for you to step out on your own and try to run a gym or something, it's going to be tough, but it's not going to be as hard as any doing martial arts or doing fights or anything like that. So you just got to stick with it. But anywho, it's to develop skills and have a mindset, and we'll talk about some stuff that you guys probably already know, but different things being a leader that I think I help, or I try to, push to the guys, and then we'll bring it down here a little bit, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. And then you got to think on, we'll have Stephen talking a little bit, but right here, key aspects of leadership. This is huge for me right here, because if you're not doing this kind of stuff and you're trying to run a gym, you got to be embodying what is about running a gym. Eating right. I mean, obviously we're going to eat bad food and stuff like that, but you look at the guys that are the real professionals, they're in shape. That's just number one. If you're going to run a gym, eating right is just going to help. It's going to help with your overall feeling and stuff like that. Doesn't mean you can't go out and be drinking beers and having wings and shit. Obviously we're going to have fun watching the fights, whatever, but you don't want to make a habit of it, right? These things can turn into habits real quick. Weight training, right, definitely has to be done. If you're going to run a gym, you should be looking good. If you want to compete, you should be weight training or doing something outside of just coming to jiu-jitsu all the time, right? Which is important too, right? And train right. I think this is huge for a lot of people. Some of our guys, have a hard time understanding this, or they've been training for a long time and they're not getting it. But you see the best guys in here: Thor, Grace, Renee, Zach. Obviously, you guys all do this. Take the entire class, right? They show up when they can. Sometimes you're late, you got shit going on, but you show up, take the entire class. Do the drills, which guys don't want to do the drills, but you do the drills, then you do the hard rolls at the end of the class, and you make sure you're sticking in. It's easy to start bad training habits too, where I only show up and roll, or I had a monster and 2 bong rips today. How do you think that's going to go over by the time training comes? Not bad, right? Maybe you have a monster and 2 bong rips, but you also try to eat some good food and drink a lot of water. And if you're doing your weight training, you're taking care of your body, then the hard training is going to be easy. All right, so those are, I think, some of the most important dumb things that guys don't talk about. It's like, if you're just waking up and coming in to trying to teach or trying to just do your business and you're not taking care of your body or your overall mental health, your business is gonna suffer just like your body is, right? So I really love this quote. Joe Rogan said it one time. Obviously, Joe Rogan said everything he stole from somebody. He didn't make it up, but how you do anything is how you do everything, right? So if you live your life and you have that discipline to take care of yourself, all that other stuff is gonna fall in line. All right, so say
sure.
something, right? So you can give an introduction.
Thank you. Yeah, for sure. Good afternoon, fam. So first off, just want to thank Coach Z for blessing me with the opportunity to speak for a few minutes about leadership specifically. Passionate about leadership as well. For those of you who don't know me, in this realm here, I'm a blue belt under John Thor Blank. Proud of that as well. I'm also, of course, you guys know the lineage under Coach Zach as well here in Bethlehem. Now, for me, leadership varies in many aspects. Outside of this realm, I'm an administrator in education. So I help to lead 400 plus students on a daily basis. I have 35 staff, and in addition, I also help and lead some parents as well. All right. Within that realm, we deal with a vast amount of things on a daily basis, leadership-wise. Everything from helping someone overcome an obstacle to, man, this person just lost their parents. It's that vast. And I have to be able to, I joke sometimes and I say, man, I wish I went back to school to become a therapist, because I do a lot of that on a daily basis, helping people to overcome those obstacles. So for me, I always ask them, do you believe you're a leader? I'm gonna ask you guys the same thing. How many of you believe, show of hands, that you're a leader?
Okay. Like halfway.
Okay, all right. And the reason why I ask that is because it's so important to understand that you're all leaders. Everyone's a leader. It's about finding it. Now, the first thing that happens is in the morning, who's the first person you lead? Yourself, right? You had an opportunity to wake up this morning, you were blessed, open up those eyes, and then you decided, you made a choice to get up, look in that mirror, put on your clothes, and come here, right? So you led yourself here. Leadership consists of two things, basically. It's vast. We could do a whole workshop on leadership for like a week, right? But two things I want to pick out: choice and fear. People are led by choice and they're led by fear, right? So you chose to get here, come here. You did whatever you needed to do in between to get your butts here. Fear-wise, people also lead by fear, dictating, so on and so forth. I hate that, right? I'm a servant leader. So outside of this realm of jiu-jitsu, I play my part, I'm on the mat, so on and so forth. Speaking of, I make a choice. Jiu-jitsu is tough, probably one of the toughest martial arts, if the wrestling and jiu-jitsu, toughest martial arts in the world. I make a choice 3 to 4 days a week to get on the mats, even though I'm scared. I've been doing it now consistently 5-6 years now, and I'm always getting choked out, but I love it. I'm passionate about it. I'm obsessed with it. But fear and choice drive me to get on these mats, right, on a consistent basis. So that is so important. So for me, what I wanted to talk about essentially is understanding you got to believe in yourself. Before you could talk about what leadership means to you, first thing is understanding you got to believe in yourself as a leader. Period. If you don't understand that, if you can't define that, you're going to have struggles understanding how to lead. And for me, being a servant leader, leading with empathy, having a listening ear, having a chance to help students, staff, adults, and even parents strive to get better, maximize their potential, move forward, work through those obstacles. I learn a lot in that process, a whole lot. Even from a business standpoint, I'm a budding real estate investor, right? And then side here, I would love to come and help Finishers blow up from that aspect. So for me, leadership goes a long way. I don't want to, speak forever, but the main thing is I want you to get out of this is believing in yourself, believing that you're a leader. Everyone leads. You start by leading yourself first, and thereafter you can go from there. So I'll leave it at that. Appreciate it. Thank you for the opportunity, Coach.
That was sick.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, that's huge. Being that kind of leader, it kind of reminds me of being a player's coach, right? You ever hear them talk about like an NFL coach or something like that, and they're a player coach. They're not like a dickhead guy who I would always butt heads with back in the day. And I had an old instructor that was kind of like that. That would mostly just kind of yell at you, do this, do that, scream at you, and it's like, man, like me and that guy were like, dude, we just always butted heads, right? We never could totally see eye to eye, even though he liked the way that I trained and he liked how tough I was and like technique and all that stuff, but just like mentally, the way he treated innocent, a lot of times it wasn't even me, because he was really nice to me, but he was kind of a jerk off to everybody else. I just didn't like the way he treated everybody, so I always felt like, that, and I think that's even a better way to say it, but I always felt like, of the players coach, like, Jimmy Johnson, who that is, the guy, he was the coach for the Cowboys, and then he was also a coach for Miami University, right? And there's like a really good documentary, it's called The U, and it's a 30 for 30 that they did, and he's a players coach. I mean, he's kind of like the guys like, oh, Michael Irvin is, going to strip clubs and doing coke. He's like, hey, he's scoring touchdowns, right? You know what I mean? He was that kind of a coach, but he was still hard on the guys on the field, and he was about his business, but he did let the guys get away with a lot of slack, It's kind of like when Phil Jackson let Dennis Rodman go to Vegas for a few days in the middle of the finals, and they were like, yeah, we got to let Dennis do Dennis. So like, helping people in their own right, like being that kind of a leader is huge, but also like, maybe I'm not gonna, tell the guys to go to Vegas and party it up while they're trying to do ACC or something like that. Maybe not that good, right? So let's move it down here. All right, here's another important one. Having goals, the importance of setting goals, right? And just knowing where you're going. Like, things, you have to definitely be flexible, because things are gonna change. So like, you might have a goal, like, I wanted to open up a school in a different area for a long time, but it just took me a while, and I had a couple of opportunities to do it, and it just never came through. So it was always a goal of mine, but I just didn't know when I was going to achieve it. Like, I just had to keep working towards it, and when one thing falls through, another one opens up, or maybe that wasn't the right opportunity, and then you find an even better one, which I think I did, right? So some of the tips for setting goals is obviously being reasonable. A lot of times I talk to people about opening up businesses and or schools, and they just go on for an hour about like, oh man, I'm gonna have heavy bags, and I'm gonna have weight training place, and I'm gonna have all this different crap. I'm like, bro, it took us 10 years, over 10 years to be able to get to this spot, something like that, or even longer. I feel like it took my whole life to get to something like this, and people want it right off the bat. So you might have to really start small. Another example of that is old strength and conditioning coach that some of the guys still train with, Craig. He started in a little gym, right, Ricky?
Barbell. He was in a little room and has a barbell.
Yep, and then all of a sudden,
and Ronald and Heckman were
and he
just
just
in a
kept
small
going.
room.
Now he had 2 gyms. He was too busy for one, so he just made it in another one. Because not only is he needed the other gym, but he's traveling all over the place. Craig's like a black belt in strength and conditioning, and same thing with his business. He started off super small and just kept working his way up, having a real job at the same time, which is important. Like, I needed to work until I can quit and figure out how I'm going to live. Like, I needed to work still in the morning and then run the business at night. Starting small, obviously is what I just said. Craig started in that, and then how many situations like that? They have the Machado brothers started in the garage and all this different stuff. So you can't just go for a home run unless you're rich and someone gave you a lot of money. Then obviously buy all the cool stuff you want. But in the beginning it's tough, right? This is something that my dad said to me a long time ago about calculated risks. You could just jump out there and do like crazy anything, like it's a huge risk and I don't know if it's going to work, and the fail, it's 50-50 whether it's going to fail, and then if it fails you kind of lost everything. But if you take a calculated risk, then you might have to risk it. If you take a calculated risk, you might not worry about it as much, so if like it's a risk for sure. But for instance, if let's say the Stroudsburg school just decided to fail and everyone quit, well, I'm only paying rent there $2,000 a month, so it's not insane to where I couldn't, maybe with my personal finances and other money I'm making doing random other side jobs, to be able to pay for that in a month. Now if I went out and got a place that was $5,000 or $6,000 a month, now it'd be like, oh shit, I need to have 100 people deep in this place, maybe before it even opens, to make sure I can make my nut and be able to pay guys, right? The reason why I took that risk is because I had guys that already lived up there. Brian and Jose already lived up north, so like they can easily make it there. Luciano lives up there. I already knew Noel was up there, and I knew guys were coming from that area. So I was like, all right, if I do this, I'm gonna have some help. I don't have to do it all on my own, like kind of how I did with the first place, and spend all of my time there. It's when you first start a business, you might have to spend most of your time at that business. If you're going to start a side business, it's got to be sustainable, that I'm going to be able to pay for it, and it's not like too much of a burden to where like if something goes wrong there, like I got to shut the place down immediately. All right, so that's very important. You guys can see that, right? This one, huge too, right? I figured this out many times once I started going into business on my own. I'm sure all you guys as business owners can understand that, you have to be accountable for your stuff. Like you could sit back and wait and yeah, hopefully, maybe I'll just ask somebody or this person's gonna help me out or whatever, but you really have to understand that nobody is coming to save you. Especially like when COVID happened and all that crap, like my parents, dude, they ain't got money, so they're not gonna be like, hey, here's a couple of bucks to make it go. You have to figure it out. Dude, I gotta do the shit on my own. Like there's no one's gonna be like, give you a good idea out of nowhere, like, yo, hey, you know what you should do to help your business? This, right? Because no one's doing that for me. They're calling me up and telling me, or I'm having to search it out on my own. That's why I listen to audiobooks. I should have that thing implanted in my head from Elon Musk, because I have those earphones in all the time. The second my son goes down for a nap, I'm listening to Gym Launch by this one dude. Isn't it weird too? You guys ever see all the influencer guys are jacked out of their mind? You ever see that? Like they must have all the time. I figured out how they're doing it. They must have all the time in the world, or they got the 100% best stack of all time. Alex Hormozi used to be like me. So the more money you make, I mean, he literally doesn't even look like a real human being. But I listen to a lot of stuff that he says, and it's not, I don't jump into like every single thing 100% deep waters, but I'm looking into everything. Oh, it's a Google thing? Okay, cool. Oh, let me learn how this guy's running a business. It's a different business than mine, but maybe I can learn something from it. Eric Brunetti, the guy who owns Fuck, like he's a pretty smart guy. Like I don't agree with all the stuff some of the clothes are kind of you know, I don't like it, but some of them I really like, right? But one thing about him is like, I want to learn everything that he's doing. Like, he's got a mind for business and like, you know, stuff. I want to look into that as much as possible, even if it's a different business in mine, and I think that helps. I've learned a lot from that one guy who's a car salesman. He kind of went off the rails now. Andy Elliott, have you seen him, the world's best car salesman? He's another guy that's jacked out of his mind. He has a lot of crazy things he says, but at first he had a lot of really good information just for helping me with Andrew. You know, Andrew doesn't have any sales experience, and we don't want the guy at the front desk to be like a sleazy salesman, like when you go and you have to sign a contract and the guy's telling you about training martial arts and it's just super sleazy. We want to make it super easy for the guy to sign the person up, but we also have to give him some experience talking to people. You know, it can't be like, do you want to do this or not? Like, that sounds horrible. The person's like, what the fuck is this? You know, we want to, you know, so that guy was just giving mental tips for talking to people and, you know, doing sales stuff, which we don't, again, I don't want to go 100% salesy. If we did want to do that, we would make Andrew's office, which is probably a pigsty, into a spot where the door would be open. When someone was new, we would bring you in there, in that office, sit you down, make it uncomfortable for you and be like, hey, this is how much it is, and go over. I mean, it could be a good thing too. That could be one way to do it and go over your goals. Now it's so easy. We just have people sign up here. And at Finishers North, it's all online. None of it is, there's no computer. We don't even have internet up at that piece. People come in and they're like, you know, I called the people from the internet, they never showed up twice. They no-showed me. So I'm like, I guess they don't want me to have internet. So everybody scans a QR code, you know, but once they go in for the waiver, they're in the computer system so I can get in touch with them. The same thing. When I hit people up, never pushy, but I'm always trying to, like, you know, hey, come in, try another class, whatever. But either way though, now that I have that school, like, I have guys that work for me, but it's all on me. I have to stay up late. I get home at 10:30 from here or whatever. Fuck, I gotta hit dudes up. Well, I want to